Morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome back for a extra special rendition of the Bros and the Berg podcast. This is Ryan Doyle, Robbie, and Connor Doyle, our executive producer. This week, our second podcast of the week, like I said, it's a special one. We're breaking down the MCU universe, movies, TV shows, and the like into tiers. So this whole episode is going to be a tier list. There's going to be no sports. It's just going to be the Marvel franchise.
No TV shows, just the movies.
Can we
We'll
restart?
still talk about the TV shows, though. We'll still talk.
Can we start over? Let's do it again. No, I'm kidding. You don't have to.
Okay. Well, we first want to start off with Mr. Robbie Bergstone today saw the new Doctor Strange movie. So we have not had a chance to talk about it amongst ourselves. So we're going to do that now, since that is not on our tier list little Johnson we have put together. And we're going to use that to catapult ourselves into ranking all the other MCU movies. So, Rob, you want to take us through your initial thoughts?
Yeah, this probably goes without saying as well, but spoilers from here on out.
Yeah, I'll put an alert, and then when it ends, I'll put another word. So you'll know.
No, don't do that. Just if you have half a brain, we're about to break down the entire MCU. There's probably gonna be spoilers.
Yeah.
Let's just use some common sense.
That's
fair. But
enough.
anyway, so let me describe my movie going experience first.
Yeah, please.
I was the only person in my movie theater.
No,
I had the entire theater to myself.
That's kind of sick.
There were like I text you, there were like 5 cars in the parking lot.
That's kind of sick though.
It was sick. Pulled up, got a Diet Coke.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the people at the movie theater were like, "Oh, do you want a ticket too?" I'm like,
"No,
I already bought my ticket."
I just want the Diet Coke.
How weird do you think I am that I'm like rolling up to a movie theater just to buy a Diet Coke and leave?
Yeah.
That is a terrible economic decision to buy anything at a movie theater and not be there to watch a movie.
Yeah. Anyways, so sorry,
strange.
Really unrelated, but that was my movie going experience tonight. So I thought it was good. The story, I think the story was interesting. All that was fine. The pacing was a little weird. You got in there and you were in the movie. It just went.
Yeah, it just started.
Yeah. It randomly got a little slow, and then it picked back up again, and then it was over. It was a little all over the place. I think they made some interesting cinematography decisions. At times it almost felt like a shitty horror movie when they were feeding their faces in and out and doing all that stuff. That was a little weird.
Or Connor mentioned the violin or whatever, the string.
That was the only thing.
What's that called?
Yeah, it was a violin piano pluck. It's the classic. They whenever there's a jump scare, they play that noise or whatever. Bro, it's that's fine, but they did it 7 times. It was the same notes too. They did it over. They pounded.
And it was just Wanda doing
it was just Wanda showing up and relax.
And then speaking of music, the whole music fight scene was interesting.
I thought that was cool. I thought the CGI was really cool.
It was cool. It was cool. It led into the song that they ended up playing. They were playing the notes, but I just thought that was different and stood out to me. But I thought it was good. I thought the pacing was a little weird, and I thought some of the camera shots were different. They weren't necessarily bad.
Yeah,
just different.
Yeah.
I think that was part of the director because Sam Raimi came in with he had a little bit of a different idea for where he wanted to take it, and I said that to Ryan too. I was the movie was good, but nothing more than good. To be completely honest, I mean, it was. I wouldn't even say it was disappointing. In my head, they told a different story than I anticipated them telling. In terms of the multiverse, I thought it would be more progression in terms of the multiverse in whole, but really all we got was just that this girl has powers, and then that was kind of it in terms of the multiverse story. I mean, it didn't progress anything, and if you're doing a Doctor Strange 2, I feel like you don't need to involve the multiverse in that story. I don't know. It's just my thoughts.
Yeah, the only thing that came out of it was that now the Darkhold is gone. That was the only outcome.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of odd, right? It's we're just now in the grand scheme of the MCU finding out about all these different realities, right? And that there's finding out about the multiverse. And all of a sudden, just some broad comes out of nowhere who, I can just travel between all of them. I mean, it's a little bit of a classic Marvel cop out, the classic Disney thing, or it's Star Wars, anything can happen kind of thing. So, and then she, in the middle of the fight, she figures out, I can control this now.
Yeah, that's kind of like
just,
Disney though. That's just a Disney.
Yeah, the classic encouragement. It's like, yes, this is what I was meant to do.
There were a couple of things that like look like they're gonna be plot holes. Then all of a sudden they like would like actually explain it out. I'm trying to remember a couple off the top of my head. Where there's a couple of things like I would like ask a question in my head like that doesn't really make like whenever Wong and Wanda were going up to that like tower up there,
Yeah,
and she's like, why like no, he portals them next to it. And she's like, why the fuck didn't you portal us all the way up to the tower? And like they actually did explain that, like stuff like that. Like I thought was interesting. They actually did kind of go back on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely didn't feel like you said, Connor, like it really progressed anything, and like it didn't really like you keep thinking they're gonna bring back the stuff from Loki. They're like Kang is in the background pulling the strings, and that still hasn't happened yet.
Yeah, but I thought there was gonna be more Kang oriented, and like I said, with the only progression that I really felt like happened was that it just created a little bit more of a rift between Strange and Wanda, and in terms of like character relationships, I guess and Wong and Wanda too, but that was really it. And I mean, and there was some like I didn't like hate this movie. There were some very cool moments. I thought the entire thing of him like getting into his reanimated dead body, I thought that that camera work and that was incredible. All that. Yeah, and like I said, I didn't hate the story. It was just different than I thought they were gonna tell. And I thought they could have for Doctor Strange 2. I thought they definitely could have done something else to where they didn't need to bring this in. Because like you said, I thought the fact that Kang, we've only seen him in Loki and nothing else. Like I understand that Loki's an alternate reality to the one we have or the one we knew, because the one we knew is dead. But so it's a different Loki. Or no, I guess because he's from Avengers onward, whatever. So he's kind of the one we know. But I don't know.
Yeah, he's the one we know before
before
everything else happens.
Yeah. So I don't know.
But like I thought it was kind of interesting that they made such a big deal, and I'm probably butchering the pronunciation, but the book of Ashanti or Deshanti or whatever it was.
Ashanti, yeah.
And they mentioned that like multiple times in a lot of really like intense scenes, and then they get there and it's just like
that was good. Like it seemed like that's like the MacGuffin of the movie, right? Like this is what everyone's trying to get to. Like we need this.
And there's only one because it's like at the convergence of all these realities, right? And then it's immediately like, it's a super powerful thing, and it's Wanda breathes on it. I did appreciate how strong they made Wanda. Nuts. I mean, like fans of Marvels that have read the comics and everything knew how strong the Scarlet Witch is, but I think it was really like they were showing all the more casual fans like, she's literally the strongest. Like she could 1v1 Thanos if she wasn't dealing with Vision kind of thing.
Yeah, the power scaling was very consistent throughout the movie. Like no one was like actually beating Wanda, right? Like you weren't ever gonna actually like out magic her. But and then that stayed that way through the entire movie. That you
and she had to bury herself.
she's
alive. Yeah, she's not dead.
She's dead. We can all agree to that.
Yeah, she's not dead. Yeah, no, not at all. And then so obviously with this movie, we have to talk about the cameos. More spoilers. John Krasinski as Reed Richards. They brought back Professor X. In What If fashion. The original actor. Yep.
That was odd.
In What If they brought back, or from What If they had Peggy Carter as her name's Captain Carter in What If, Black Bolt, and then Mordo from the original Doctor Strange, who those make up the Illuminati.
Captain Marvel.
Yeah, excuse me, but Maria, Rambeau. Yep, but Monica Rambeau's mother, or Maria Rambeau from.
I thought it was a really interesting casting decision to go with OG Professor X. Like I was thinking they might recast that role.
What do you think they were gonna go like the younger one? The dude who plays the younger one?
Just like a new actor. Introduce a new actor as Professor X. I mean, because I don't know, are you trying to do callbacks to like get people confused because the new Professor X
probably
these aren't related. It wasn't an MCU thing with old X-Men.
Well, given how fast that these characters died, I mean, it was pure fan service. So like they didn't really. I don't think they really cared about continuity because I think that Krasinski will be back as Reed Richards.
I think for sure. I think that was a setup for that one. For sure.
Yeah. All the other ones obviously not. I don't know about Professor X. I don't know about X-Men. What the hell they're gonna do with X-Men?
Yeah. That's the first time we've seen X-Men, right?
Yeah. I mean, MCU. And Hugh Jackman has been so adamant about let Logan be the last, like Wolverine story for him personally. No, he's very adamant. He's like, I don't want to come back as Wolverine because I thought Logan was such a good send off, which he's right.
Connor would rank Logan very high if we were ranking Logan all superhero movies.
Logan. But yeah, I mean, the whole scene with I thought the exchange between Wanda and the Illuminati, especially with Black Bolt, was very well done. Just like, oh,
Yeah.
what mouth? And then like that was sick.
It got dark
Yeah,
real
it
quick.
got darker real quick.
Yeah, you saw a lot of like
the deaths were
more gory deaths.
The one with the other Doctor Strange where he like lands on the gatepost. That was. I feel like also something. Robbie, did you understand what happened at the end? And like also with the post credit? Yeah.
So I was trying to read a little bit about the post credits, like as I was like leaving the movie.
Mhm.
I get
You can be on your phone while watching the movie because there's nobody else.
Yeah, that's actually
I
kind of
looked up how many post credit scene there was.
Yeah.
Phone. But so I guess she's like her name's I don't remember it off the top of my head. She's one of Doctor Strange's love interests in like the comics.
Okay.
Okay.
And so they're kind of like bringing her in, like assuming that they're gonna have to be fixing the multiverse, whatever. But like you talk about, I don't get what they're fixing about the multiverse. Like the only reason we keep dealing with multiverse is because people intentionally start going about.
Yeah.
It's not like it's like collapsing on itself. It's
Mhm.
just like people keep fucking with it.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, it's also like the MCU kind of almost went back on their story with like being America Chavez being the only one that can travel through the multiverse, and then the post credit scene is someone else who can travel through the multiverse. Like the whole point of the movie was like there's one person who can do this, and then there's another person that can do this. But like Ryan said, the dimension that she came from at the end from the post credit looked like the one.
That was Dormammu for sure.
Yeah, Dormammu. Yeah, it looked like that.
So her name is Clea, and she's like in the comics comes from the Dark Dimension, which is where like
okay.
Dormammu.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so is that Doctor Strange with the third eye? Is that the one that he found in the broken dimension or whatever it was? Did he take over his body? Did he dreamwalk into him? Something like I don't know, some weird.
Or like was that the consequence of taking over the dead?
I think so.
Said, like, like taking that over. So, like, is that what the third eye is?
No, I think it's the punishment of using the Darkhold. Remember when he was fighting other Strange and he talks about how there is a price to pay for using the Darkhold. I think that's what it is.
That's a good one. Robbie, what did you think of the through line of like him, the whole like Christine thing? Because if I'm being completely honest, like Christine was kind of, for me personally, like an unmemorable love interest for Doctor Strange 1. Like I didn't even remember her name until they said something. And I mean, just I don't know, for like the context of the movie and how big it was supposed to be in terms of the multiverse, I just didn't feel like this through line really resonated. I understood the whole thing of like, oh, every dimension he went to, like he could never be with Christine kind of thing. I understood that, but I don't know, just for the stakes in the movie, what were your thoughts?
And the same thing happened in What If too. That there's that one What If episode where like Christine dies and then he like goes about like trying to like do everything he can to save her and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
I think I got set up a little more there. I think like
True.
They wrapped it up. Like I don't think you'll see Rachel McAdams in another Marvel movie. Like I think that like wrapped up their story, essentially, whatever it is. But I didn't mind it. Like I think she was pretty memorable in the first one because like she's the reason he ends up going to Carmartage because she's like, you're an asshole, like go, and then he just goes and starts like wandering the world. So I liked it.
I liked it for just like as big as the multiverse is, you still have these things that bring you back to like whatever dimension or reality you come from, kind of thing. And like, so I didn't mind it. I think we definitely should get in the tier list. We've been on the one movie for 15 minutes. So
are you talking trash?
No, I'm just sure we're the pacing. We're just bashing for
we're giving a review. All right, so we're gonna go for this tier list, boys. We're gonna go in release order. So first of all, Iron Man 1, released in 2008. I think this is a top 5 Marvel movie in my opinion. Maybe top 3, honestly, God.
Top 3's a bit spicy. Top 5's not a terrible take.
But like I don't know if it's a top 5 movie in terms of like the movie itself or the influence it had. Like
no, I rewatched it a few weeks ago. I think that movie is so good. Just watching it back.
You think it's aged well?
Yes, I think
in relation
incredibly well. Yeah, I would argue.
For being made in 2008, I feel like it's aged pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it started, like you said, it started the whole thing. I mean.
Yeah, I would have just put it in banger. I think it's a really good movie, but I think there are a lot of movies in the MCU that are maybe not a lot, but there are movies in the MCU that are better. But Connor seems to.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rob. And with these movies specifically, just because of how big a net they all cast in this whole grouping, there's a lot of different things you have to pay attention to. It's like, okay, how does this add to the story? How was the reaction from the cultural reaction and everyone that watched it the first time? How is its rewatchability, right? Like, so there's a lot of different things that kind of go into ranking
Yeah.
these movies, and it kind of depends on
Mhm.
what emphasis that you put on. So Iron Man being the first one and getting the MCU started off, I think is memorable, and Tony Stark playing that role. I'm definitely gonna put it in banger.
Okay.
Personally,
Yeah.
I definitely think it's a top 10.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
it's a borderline top 5.
Easy top 5. I would also argue in terms of like the as you said, Robbie, the just like how it holds up. I mean, so for a lot of these actors, especially like we'll get into it, like Chris Hemsworth was, and Chris Evans were both a little bit stiff when they started. Robert Downey Jr. just picks it up immediately. In the first Iron Man, he is Tony Stark, and it's just I think that's what makes the movie so impressive too. But
I think the only thing that for me that holds it back though is like the villain's not great.
Sure.
Like he has very like basic motivations for like why he's doing what he says. Like I just want to take over the company. Like
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
cool.
true.
Like that's like the most basic thing ever. So I think that's one of the things that kind of holds it back.
Okay.
I will
I
say
see.
the Iron Man series as a whole, the villains weren't great.
Yeah. But what about the guy with his bird? Bird. He's got the bird.
What do you
A
mean,
bird dude who then we
bird?
see back in Shang-Chi.
We'll see him back in Shane. We see the Mandarin back.
I'm sorry,
Shang,
Iron Man 3. Excuse me.
Yeah.
My bad, bro.
So next up, so we put that in the top of banger for right now. Next up, we have the Incredible Hulk, the Edward Norton before they recast it to Mark Ruffalo.
I don't know the last time I saw that movie.
I rewatched it a couple weeks
Was
ago.
there any MCU call in that movie? I don't remember there being.
So
besides Abomination.
Yes. So the post credit scene was Tony Stark coming up to somebody in a bar. Coming up to like,
oh, was it really?
Tony Stark, I thought.
No. Tony Stark comes up to, this was before so Tony Stark comes up to the general that was like trying to control the Hulk. It was like the post credit, and then he's like, "We're looking for a team or whatever, like that kind of thing." And then so this technically like actually did involve itself in the MCU, but obviously they recasted everybody involved.
It's in a different universe.
Yeah, this is an oof for me. This is not
Hulk movies traditionally have been bad.
Good. This is not.
I thought the fight scene with Abomination was fine.
The CGI was okay.
Like, CGI wise, I thought they put a lot lot of the budget into that like 5-10 minute fight.
Yeah.
The story was ass. I mean, everything like kind of leading up to it wasn't very good. I mean, I don't think we're gonna have a lot of movies sitting in oof, so I'm down for that.
Bro, I'm sorry, go ahead, bro. Yeah.
She-Hulk trailer looks really good.
It looks fun. It looks different. It looks kind of funny. It actually
Tuesday, but you guys hadn't watched it yet. But I think it looks very different. I think
it's very different, yeah, but it looks funny. With the Hulk thing, it was like it was already bad when I was rewatching it a few weeks ago. It was already bad, right? But then you get into the third act of the movie, and then they introduce this other scientist who is this like comic relief character. The comedy makes you want to gouge your eyes out. It was so bad. Like the actor's bad, the lines are bad. It's just one of the worst things I've ever seen. So we'll put the Incredible Hulk in oof. Now we got Iron Man 2 with the main villain being Whiplash, the Russian dude with the bird. Yeah.
He needs his bird. And Justin Hammer too.
Yeah.
He makes every time I see his face, I want to punch him, bro. He's
a good villain.
He's a punchable
He's a really good
villain. Yeah.
I put it in Ka-Chow. I like this movie.
Really like Iron Man
I don't think it's as good as Iron Man 1, but I would put it up.
I probably agree with that.
Yeah, I'd be down with Ka-Chow.
Mm-hmm. We can't go through it too fast, guys. Got to have some. We'll have some discussion about this.
I'm trying to, because I haven't seen Iron Man 2 in a while. I'm trying to remember some of the plot lines that went with it. I remember they had the whole big convention, for lack of a better term, and he like
the Stark Expo.
Finds the new element that his dad had laid out, and like the position of the plan and everything. So I thought that was a cool callback.
First time we see War Machine, like the actual suit. Obviously, they recast him from the first Iron Man. So you actually see him, Don Cheadle, get his suit and like become War Machine. That's in that movie. They have the fight at the Stark Mansion.
Whiplash, you see like the innovation of the suit, like him pulling it out of a briefcase, like putting it on, like after the car accident and everything.
Yeah, that's a year. Monaco, Elon Musk has a cameo.
Yeah,
in
he does.
He does. A Grand Prix.
Yeah. I will stand by this fact. Iron Man and like the trilogy, best character development by a mile in terms of the MCU, just of how much Tony Stark progresses. It's just incredible.
I'm curious to see what is if you break down all the MCU for the like up until Endgame, what is the screen time distribution for all these characters? Because I feel like
Iron Man is huge.
Yeah, the highest of all of them.
I feel like I saw a post on Reddit that someone did that. You can find that. I've definitely seen that before.
Chris Evans has got to be up there too. Oh no, because he was out for the one movie, wasn't he? Because he was like on the run.
He hasn't been in as many movies as Robert Downey Jr. has.
Yeah, because Robert Downey Jr. is in a few of the Spider-Mans too.
Right.
Yeah, I do.
That's right. He is.
Yeah,
he's like, the first Spider-Man.
It's so bad. Oh my god.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would like to find the answer to this.
So what was the question you were asking, Ryan? MCU
so if you're breaking down screen time or like that they have.
So the top is Iron Man, 5 hours and 58 minutes.
I just pulled it up as well.
Okay.
If you were.
No, you got it. Go ahead.
Okay, so Tony Stark Iron Man this is broken down into seconds, by the way. I do not know why.
Damn.
Tony Stark Iron Man, 21,525 seconds. So what is that equal?
Well, I found the minutes one. I don't know what, or the hours one.
360 minutes.
So
6 hours.
Yeah, 6 hours,
So, yeah.
and he has 3 standalone movies. Which you're definitely not shocked by that. Peter Parker is already in second.
Are like what, like 3 of the first 6 movies or something like that? Like they do all of the Iron Man super early, and then he's just there.
But what's wild is Peter Parker Spider-Man is second.
Oh, mine says.
Okay, what does yours say?
It might not be updated through the third Spider-Man movie.
This is March 2022.
This is what is it? Hold on, we're having some technical stuff right now.
So this one does not take into account Maximoff or Strange.
Yeah, I think this. Oh, this is 2019. Yeah, never mind.
It's probably or Ryan's. Yours is probably through Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yep.
So top 3 are Iron Man, Peter Parker, and Captain America is like 400 seconds.
Yeah.
Behind Parker.
We're talking about that. No, Iron Man only has 3 standalone movies, but Captain America: Civil War was like also kind of an Iron Man.
Yeah, it's pretty much an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the pseudo Avengers movie.
Pseudo Avenger. Yeah. So we'll move on to the next movie. The next release was the first Thor movie, in which I think this is the most overhated MCU movie. Honestly, I think that people take issue with that Hemsworth is a little stiff in some of the directorial decisions. I don't think this movie is as bad as people remember, and I think if people went and rewatched it, they would enjoy it a lot more than they thought they would.
I think the problem is just that Ragnarok is so much better.
It's just funny.
When you watch Ragnarok, you're like, and you go back and watch the old Thor movie, like they're completely different tones, like completely different characters. Like Thor's a completely different character between those 2 movies.
I think they just didn't realize how much of a knack that Hemsworth had for comedic acting at the time, because they were trying to. He was very, like you said, he was a very different character. He was more this Shakespearean, just like drama, drama. But then they realized, oh no, he's actually a really funny actor. So let's give him, the comedic stuff, the Marvel comedy, and they figured that out.
I think that was a director decision based off what Thor was coming from. I mean, he had never had any interaction with like people from Earth. Right, so he came from Asgard's sense of humor, and like he was royalty and all that. So I don't think necessarily that was like a bad decision in terms of directing, right? Yep. Like I think that you had to show again character development of Thor becoming quote unquote more human or more Earth-like, and letting his like personality kind of come through.
The scene in the first one where he like throws down his coffee mug and says another. That's hysterical. Like that's a really fun scene.
Yeah. It's a classic fish out of water story, but people thought they didn't do it well. I would disagree. I think it's much better than people thought it was. So where would you gentlemen place it?
My biggest gripe with that is the fight scene. That like
which
with
one?
the whatever
the monster
the
that
Terminator
Loki
thing that comes. Yeah. It's mid at best. I mean, he has his like homies come down to like try to help.
And somehow like an underviewed part of this movie, Tom Hiddleston is like, this is his first appearance as Loki. He's incredible. Like in the first story, he's incredible. The scene between him and Anthony Hopkins when he like is confronting him about like Odin not being his dad, that scene's incredible. Like Hiddleston and Hopkins would work phenomenally together. So yeah, I mean, like I said, Hemsworth is obviously a little stiff, but overhated. Where would you guys put this movie?
I'd probably put it in Ka-Chow personally.
Okay.
I was on the fence between Ka-Chow and It Was a Movie. So
If y'all feel strongly about it, I mean, I feel like we're gonna have a lot in the top 3. So if we
Yeah.
want to put that top of It Was a Movie, that's I'm not gonna lose sleep over it.
you're gonna be so upset. You're gonna.
It's better than
text
the
me.
second Thor.
Yeah.
My
it's
personal-
better than Thor. Did y'all see the thing? I mean, I'm guessing maybe a little ahead of myself, but the second Thor, they asked Benedict Cumberbatch to be the villain in that movie.
Really?
I had heard that.
And they
Yeah.
offered the villain thing too, and he's like,
Thank
"You know what? I'm
God.
gonna hold out for like a bigger role in the MCU."
Thank God.
It worked out, but he said that in an interview this week, which I thought was interesting.
Bro, like the way he looks, he's ripped from the comics. Like the way Benedict Cumberbatch looks, he looks exactly like Doctor Strange does in the comics.
So did you put that in Ka-Chow or It Was a Movie?
I put it in the bottom of Ka-Chow for right now.
Yep.
We'll put it there. So next we have Captain America: The First Avenger. So the first, technically the earliest set movie in the MCU.
Yeah, if you're doing it chronologically, if
Yeah,
you're
it's his
watching
first
it
one.
chronologically, do you watch Cap first?
Yeah, it's Cap
Yeah.
and then Captain Marvel.
The two caps.
Yeah.
2 caps. Yep. So yeah, Captain America: The First Avenger. This was one because I've been rewatching some of them and I've gotten to like about Ant-Man. This was one that I actually enjoyed a little less on the rewatch. I thought it was better. Like I originally thought it was better, but now it was a little vanilla, which I guess is kind of the point of the Captain America character. Yeah. But it's a good movie. Don't get me wrong. But honest to God, when I was rewatching him, I enjoyed Thor more than I did the first Captain America, which I was shocked by when I went back and watched him.
I think this like time setting in it is really cool. Like in the war, like all that I think is really cool and like really well done.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. Like when you think back about that movie, like it doesn't feel like a lot happened.
Yeah, it's just it's not much. Sure. The Red Skull character was fine, and then he came back in Infinity War. You're like, ooh, or Endgame. Excuse me.
It was a cool cameo.
Yeah,
for sure.
A great cameo.
It introduces the Tesseract.
Yeah,
and
that is good.
First time an Infinity Stone shows up.
Yeah.
And
yeah, then they go on with like his girl comes into like being like part of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I guess you kind of learn about that a little later.
I just feel like the middle of that movie, like after he gets the serum, and then like nothing happens because like you can't actually like, be a soldier. Like that whole part of the movie is kind of that could have been like
cut out. Yeah,
he loses Bucky.
That part is good.
Yeah.
The post I'm trying to remember if it's the post credit scene where he wakes up and like runs out.
Really good. That's a really good post credit.
That's a top 5 post credit scene.
It's a very good post credit scene. Yeah. And honestly, like for his time, because it was 2011ish, like when obviously it's always kind of strange to see Chris Evans like skinny and stuff. That CGI is not bad. Like it actually kind of still holds up. It's very impressive for its time. So
I think they used a body double and like deep faked his face.
Yeah. Because they did it again in Winter Soldier and he looked better in Winter Soldier, but it was still it was still very strange because it's Chris Evans and he's jacked, obviously. I would put this in it was a movie, like it's good, but for the MCU I feel like they've done much better.
Okay. And it's not tough because like these are the origin stories too, and it's really trying to figure out what works with that character.
Yeah.
And then how they're going to interact with all these other characters that they're trying to introduce, right? And so like they hit the nail on the head with Iron Man, right?
Yep.
And then like the villain in this one wasn't great, and I mean similar with Thor.
Yeah.
So but they definitely improved because Thor 2 sucked, but Thor 3 was great, and then as we'll talk about, like Winter Soldier was probably one of the best ones. But
yeah, they didn't hit their stride with villains till much later in MCU. Like some of the early villains are kind of like okay, like
poop.
Nothing really overly exciting.
Essentially,
I mean Loki obviously, but outside of like not the best.
So the next one we got is the first Avengers movie, the one that came out in 2012. Brought them all together. Very good movie, I think. I think probably it could go in a few tiers. I'd probably say like banger or Ka-Chow, in my opinion.
I would have said banger. I think it's a good movie. I really like it. I think
groundbreaking for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Superheroes.
I mean, when it came out, it was a huge like cultural thing. I think the watchability is really good when you factor in like some of the stuff with Endgame, and then how that branches off with Loki and like Strange coming back, and I mean it was
Yeah.
I thought it was really cool. It was Iron Man being selfless.
I think they had character development for all 6 of them in one movie, which is pretty impressive. Like, because they all like kind of changed throughout the movie, and I think it was impressive that you had all 6 of them in the movie and managed to get that done.
Mm-hmm.
Well, also showing them like getting their ass whooped.
Yeah.
Like, Loki playing them like a fiddle, and the whole like Coulson scene where like
Coulson dying.
off.
Yeah.
And then like, so I
the
thought
scene,
it was. I would definitely say banger for this one.
Yeah, the scene of the like where they're all together like in the circle for the first time is such a cool scene. Like it still holds up and is very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Does Black Widow show up before Avengers?
She shows up in Iron Man 2.
That's right. In Iron Man 2.
Hawkeye is in Thor.
Hawkeye's in Thor. Yeah, I didn't realize he was in that early.
Yep.
Yeah, because Coulson says like the birds in his nest or something like that. I remember. So yeah, Avengers will put that definitely in banger. And my favorite scene, like Ryan said, is when Loki's causing the dissension between them, and the whole thing with like Iron Man and Cap getting in each other's face. And it's kind of an interesting, thing because Captain America knew like Howard Stark. He didn't know him personally, but like knew of Howard Stark. Oh wait, no, he did know him personally because he got the shield from it.
Yeah.
So that whole thing of like interacting with his son, I thought that was cool. And the whole thing, everything special about you came out of a bottle. Is like, what makes you so special? Genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropist, like that, It's just that whole scene I love. So yeah, we'll put that in banger. And then the next one, Iron Man 3. I would argue this is the worst of the trilogy.
Yes.
I don't think that's much of a hot take.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy this movie that much, if I'm being completely honest.
I haven't seen this movie in a while. Whenever I rewatched the MCU, we actually skipped this one.
I don't enjoy it that much.
Yeah, it's the whole. I mean, it's him like eventually trying to cut down on like the Iron Man. Pepper doesn't want him to anymore, and he still has like all these suits and all this shit, and it kind of takes over his personal life.
And then I think people were upset too because people really wanted the actual Mandarin to be in it because he's one of Iron Man's biggest foes in the comics, and they set it up and then ended up not being the Mandarin.
Yeah,
that was a lot of people's disappointment as well because they want to actually see that. So we get him later in Shang-Chi, but I think that was part of the disappointment as well. That's like you set up this huge villain and then it wasn't actually him.
Yep.
That kind of felt.
Remind me, was the villain?
Villain was the burning
were those
dude.
attempts at super serum? Or like
the
cap
extremists,
serum?
the people that have extreme serum.
Yeah. So like they had some of the strength and stuff, but like it was super unstable and shit.
Yep.
The one thing I will commend Iron Man 3 for is something that Hawkeye also did such a good job of is showing the characters that are human and like their vulnerabilities. In Iron Man 3, they show like his PTSD from New York, like the fight in New York. They show it so heavily and it's so well done. And like that's why he can't sleep. That's why he's building all these suits. He can't, he's waking up in the middle of the night all the time. He's having constant like memories and flashbacks. They did that phenomenally. And I know a lot of people remember like the whole interaction with like him and the kid that he met kind of thing. I didn't mind that storyline. It didn't really do much for me either. Like I don't know. I don't dislike
it
this
was
movie.
A movie.
Yeah,
it was a movie.
It's not a Kachika. It's not bad enough to be a Kachika.
But what does it do? Like I'm looking at MCU. Like what is this further in the MCU line?
It sets up Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Because he stops building suits, he starts building the robots.
That's right.
True. That's true. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, we'll put it in. It was a movie for right now. Any more thoughts on that one? I think I spelled Kachika.
I'm kind of with Rob. It's been a little bit since I've seen it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I haven't seen that one in forever.
Yeah. How do you spell Kachika? CKA or?
You spelled it Kacheega.
Yeah. I think it's EECKA. All right, whatever. Now we got Thor: The Dark World.
This is just not a good movie.
The villain is the worst MCU villain ever.
And minimum Kachika.
I don't think it's as bad as the Hulk though. Somehow.
Maybe.
I think it's Kachika. It's when I rewatched it again, it was one of the ones that was a little better than I anticipated because I went into it thinking this is gonna be awful, like this movie is gonna be so bad. But then I rewatched it, I was like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. But the villain is the worst villain in the MCU. Like there's no point. He doesn't do anything. His like Thor's mom gives him that work. Some other person gives him that work, and then Thor gives him that work at the end, and he doesn't do anything. Like he has the ether for a little bit, and that's it. It's so weird. I guess the appearance of the ether or the reality stone, the first appearance of that. I don't know. That movie not great. What are your guys' thoughts?
That you summed it up. Those are the
Yeah.
His character development was also, I would argue, because in the second one he's acting very regal and very more like Odin, and I was like, I understand that there's character development from the first, but he just went from point A to point B. Like it didn't feel like Thor to me when he was the way he was acting.
Right.
So yeah, it was a little strange. So yeah, I guess we'll put that in Kachika. I would say probably comfortably the second worst MCU movie to date. So yeah, the next one of Ryan Mai's favorites, Captain America: The Winter Soldier,
elite,
which is my personal favorite MCU movie.
It's hard to top.
It's so damn good. That movie is incredible. Robbie, why do you think it's so elite?
I mean, the story's great. Obviously, it sets up so much going forward, and just like every character in it is solid. Like, there's not a bad character you can point to. Like, I don't know what they were doing for the story. Like, it's just a good movie. There's a lot of twists and turns. There's nothing that, like, they tried too hard to set up this big twist, but still enough to, like, when you watch it for the first time, you really didn't know what was going to happen.
Yeah, like the Hydra stuff. You're like, yep.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite scenes in all of Marvel is the scene with Captain America and Black Widow in the basement where the scientist is explaining to them like how Hydra's been infiltrating for all these years. I love that scene so much because I also like, as much as I want to give props to the story, the editing is incredible. They're showing like the footage and they're like flipping through the case files or whatever, flipping through the pages. Like the editing of that is fantastic. Ryan, what are your thoughts on
that?
I
mean, when he says he's like when Hydra needed something, we change history, and it's like the Winter Soldier music, and it just you just see like Bucky or whatever.
The Winter Soldier theme, one of the best themes in Marvel. That whatever they use for that noise is so like it just shuts down a room. Like it's so piercing.
It's MCU Terminator-esque.
Right?
It just kind of is like, oh shit, like this. Yeah. This dude.
Oh shit, Bucky's coming.
Oh shit, Bucky's coming. And seeing Falcon, I mean, the opening scene is hysterical, and then they close the movie with Cap waking up and him saying the same shit. I mean, it brings a bit more lightheartedness to it, just like them being friends and whatnot, which I thought, that relationship really, you see it bloom, and then obviously it gets its own like TV show and everything. But yeah, I mean the villain story is really good, and like you think Samuel L. Jackson's dead, and then the motherfucker's back. Like you can't kill that man.
Yeah.
His car chase scene's incredible too. That whole it's a violent movie. Like for Marvel, it's a very violent movie, and especially when Bucky's like beating the hell out of Cap at the end on the ship, and then you're worried, and then he drags him out of the water. You're like, there's still a little bit of him left, and that development, like just Bucky's development in that movie, is better than half the other characters in the MCU. So yeah, Winter Soldier is clearly elite. Next, they had back-to-back bangers. They had Guardians of the Galaxy 1 next. Very, very, very different from Winter Soldier.
And this is where you see Marvel experiment with how much comedy can you cram into a superhero movie, right? And Chris Pratt is like the dude to bring that about. And I mean, I think they cast, again, shout out to Marvel. And I mean, they just cast every single one of their movies super, super well. And there's so many great one-liners from this movie, from Pratt, flipping off the camera when they're doing all like the spell lineup to like him with the curly haired dude.
Yeah.
curly-haired dude in Step Brothers. I forget what his name is. He's like, I don't believe anyone's 100% dick, man. Like those like quotable lines are hysterical.
Dance off to save the universe. Like,
Exactly.
Tell him
right?
about the dance off. Yeah.
I thought the villain was good. I thought for such a funny movie, like having your kind of
a very serious villain.
Very serious.
Right,
yeah.
a very serious villain, and like who's answering directly to Thanos. So we get like our first little glimpse into Thanos there.
Well, Thanos was in charge of Loki and Avengers too.
Yeah.
That's right. Excuse me. But does Thanos get screen time in Guardians of the Galaxy?
I think if I remember correctly, I believe this is the post credit. I think this is also a top 5 post credit where he's like, "Fine, I'll do it myself," and he grabs the gauntlet and puts it on. Like that one is sick. That scene is sick. It's only like 10 seconds, but it's like one of the best ones.
And so we see the Power Stone. Correct. That's
Correct.
like
Yes.
the little metal ball that he steals right at the beginning too.
Yeah, the opening scene of him stealing the ball and he's like dancing. That's a great scene.
Well, it also they set up a really good contrasting tone because remember the very first scene is actually like him watching his mom die. Like that's you know, people forget about that. You're like, damn, when they go into that, and then he starts like dancing and stuff. So they 80s music. But yeah, it's very very funny very very funny movie. I mean, Bradley Cooper kills it as Rocket. People don't recognize that Vin Diesel voices Groot, which is the funniest thing. They got Vin Diesel and they just have him saying the same line over and over.
And like Batista, right?
Yeah,
like,
Batista's Drax. Yeah, exactly. All these big names. So yeah, do we banger? Are we thinking like top of banger?
It's top of banger. It's I would be shocked to see if it moves below top of banger because in my mind there's probably 5 elite movies and Guardians and like Iron Man are right on the outside.
Yeah. But I would personally put it above Iron Man and the first Avengers movie.
I would. Yeah, it's close. It really also depends on the mood I'm in.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, super funny movie. Next we have another one that I would argue is a little overhated, but I also understand some of the hate. Avengers: Age of Ultron.
I think definitely overhated.
Like you said, Ryan, James Spader as Ultron is the most perfect casting that you could ever have. James Spader
is terrifying.
His voice is so good for Ultron. Yeah. So
I really love this movie specifically for one reason, and it's the reality check to Stark and Banner and them, being these intelligent dudes thinking they're the most intelligent people in the universe, and then they just get whopped. Like they just all of a sudden, something they created. It's like, oh shit, like this technology is smarter than we are, and then they have to deal with the consequences. And then that puts further down the line of putting the Avengers into the line of fire. It's like, should they be responsible for all the shit that happened? Like it kind of puts them for the first time in the view of the public in like a negative eye. So I think it doesn't get enough credit for that and kind of furthering that. But there were some plot holes and there were some pacing issues, I think, of the movie. But yeah, I mean, I'm sorry.
I'd say one of the biggest issues that most people had, and mostly because of the follow-up, because they did follow up occasionally because there were some jokes and stuff, but the whole Natasha Bruce Banner thing never did anything. It was
weird. It was forced.
But it was almost kind of worth it for the joke in Endgame where like Bruce Banner, he said something where he was like, what calms me down, and Thor's like, Natasha. So that joke is so funny in Endgame.
I'm getting real low, big guy.
When Thor does that in Ragnarok. Yep. No, this movie was like set for just like joke callbacks. Like there's just so many there's like a serious callback in Endgame when after Nebula and Tony come down from the ship, where Tony, because this is a movie where he's talking to Cap, he's like, I told you that we needed a shield around the world because of stuff like this. So yeah, Robbie, what are your thoughts on Age of Ultron?
I agree with you.
Come on, Robbie.
I really actually, of all the movies we've talked about so far, I want to go back and watch Ultron the most right now. And I'm not going to, but I wouldn't put it obviously in elite. I don't even know if I'd put it in banger, but I kind of want to remember some of the stuff because I think it's talked about a lot in other movies, like hear snippets here and there for conversations. And I just like, you remember those when you watch through movies again. And it's a big movie. Again, you're bringing all the dudes together again for the second time. And I think following the first Avengers, I don't want to say it fell flat, but I think there were really high expectations, right?
Mhm.
When you're comparing the first Avenger, this one, Infinity War, and Endgame, this one obviously is last, right? I don't think like
Yeah.
anyone's going to really argue that,
Mhm.
but I think it's still a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
I'd still put it in now. Like I don't get why people hate it. Like I get saying it's not as good as some of the other ones, but I think
Sure.
it's a very good movie.
I would agree.
Also the emergence of Vision, you know, as important, you know, and you know,
Jarvis.
a little bit more of the understanding of the Mind Stone, because we really didn't know about it too much, and so we get a little deeper look into that.
Introduces Wanda.
Yeah, Wanda and Pietro. They were the post credit in the movie.
Yep.
Before this, no,
they were post credit in Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier, yeah, that's right. Because Guardians, the post credit was that they gave the Power Stone to the Collector or something like that. That was Thor. I'm tripping, bro. That was Thor. Yeah.
In the post credit of Winter Soldier, you see the Loki scepter and the twins.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah.
Kind of sad that Pietro was killed because Quicksilver and MCU would be sick, but
I mean he was in WandaVision, the X-Men actor.
Yeah, but he also wasn't.
But yeah. I don't know, but we'll see. The next one we got is the one I gotta watch next. One that I remember fondly, Ant-Man. Paul, again, Ryan, you know, casting Paul Rudd is hilarious in this movie. And
I feel like this one's underrated. Not overhated, but underrated.
Correct. I agree. I fully agree. His friend is so funny, Luis or whatever his name is. When he's telling the stories and they're doing like the fat. Oh, I love that. I love that editing. But yeah, I think it's. I'm trying.
Is classic. He's just like Baskin Robbins always finds out.
Who was the main villain in this movie? Why am I having trouble remembering?
Yellow Jacket.
Yellow Jacket. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I mean, the whole thing is them trying to steal the PIM formula, right? Like that's the whole theme throughout all the Ant-Man shit is them trying to find that.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, it's like almost like an Ocean's 11 movie. Like it teeters on that, like just being like how to steal something movie.
Yeah, I really enjoy this movie. What are we saying? Like back end of Ka-Chow? It's better than it was a movie. I think it was.
Excuse me.
Definitely very.
I would say Ka-Chow.
Yeah.
You know, it is funny and how it builds that character up from like nothing. There's nothing special about Paul Rudd, which I think makes it really cool that he turns into a superhero.
He was in jail at the beginning of the movie,
right?
Yeah.
I think like any of the fight scene and the fight scenes were cool, right? The special effects of like looking down, sizing up, all that kind of stuff is really cool. And like the plan, like the Ocean 11 comment was great. Like the plan of like how they're gonna go in and like steal shit. I definitely see that now. But I would say back in the Ka-Chow front end of it was a movie. I don't think I'm as high on it as you two are.
Okay.
I put it in Ka-Chow.
Yeah. Put it in Ka-Chow. Next one, I'm gonna assume you guys are gonna say Elite Captain America: Civil War, the end of that trilogy. Just some heartbreaking moments in this movie. I mean, when Iron Man finds out that Bucky, or not Bucky, but the Winter Soldier was the one that killed his parents. It's just that whole scene is incredible.
And you see Cap like lying to protect.
Yeah. The first time you see a villain win in a Marvel movie. Like Zemo won.
Oh yeah. The whole when he was like
he achieved like his goal, like what he wanted to happen.
Yeah, the emergence of the first appearance of Black Panther in that movie. And that was a cool little rivalry too, because obviously he the explosion killed his dad, and he thought the Winter Soldier was responsible, so he went after Bucky. And then Cap.
He got a decent amount of screen time.
He did. No, he really
for
did.
Not like having his own movie yet.
Yeah, you forget you forget how much he's in this movie. But I mean, like you said, it's kind of a pseudo Avengers movie. I mean, there's so many, and obviously, Spider-Man also gets introduced in this movie. Tom Holland also gets introduced. So yeah, and then I'm trying to remember who all was on like each team, because I remember it was Vision was on Iron Man's team, correct?
Yeah.
Widow, Cap, Bucky.
No, Widow was on Iron Man's and then switched to Cap because Falcon obviously was with Cap.
No, Widow was on Iron Man's team. Hawkeye was on Cap's team. He's one up in jail at the end of the movie.
Yeah, but then remember at the end, Black Panther almost catches them, and then Black Widow like tases. And like when they go off.
Falcon was on with Captain America.
Yeah.
Ant-Man was with Captain America because Falcon and Ant-Man fight
Oh
in that.
yeah.
And so he's like, Falcon's like, I know a guy, and then they bring in
yeah. I also, like I said, some of the heartbreaking stuff. I mean, when they're doing the fight scene, it's another very Winter Soldier-esque in terms of it was very violent. Like that fight scene where he was like analyze their fighting patterns, and he like Captain America's just beating the hell out of the Iron Man suit pretty much, and he's like, oh, you don't deserve to wear that shield, and then he tosses it aside, and he's like kind of moving on to not quite as Captain America-y, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, he goes dark. It's like as dark as Cap can go, like off the grid type thing that you see in Infinity War when you first see him again. And like you mentioned, some sad things with like War Machine. I mean, he gets paralyzed.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Everything stops. Like that stopped the entire fight. It's like holy shit. Like we might have actually killed one of our own.
Yeah. When because Falcon stops down and he's like, holy crap, and then Iron Man like blasts him to the side. But yeah,
that was funny as funny as it could be, in like a really like sad
way to break the mood.
Yeah. And this, it also shows you like in terms of Captain America's development, like how important Bucky is to him because he's doing so many things to protect this dude because Bucky was the one that protected him throughout his entire life, and he can't turn his back on his best friend.
It's the whole loyalty thing. Cap's loyal to a fault, like not telling Tony that like Bucky was the one that killed his folks. Like that's a huge thing.
But then he's not loyal to Tony at all, even though him and Tony have been through all these things together. And like, no, it's an interesting thing of like, where do you draw the line of loyalty? Because you have, obviously Bucky's a childhood friend, grew up with him. Then, him and Tony had done a lot together at that point. Tony saved his life in the Battle of New York, stuff like that. That it's interesting to see where the loyalties lie.
Cap didn't know, like didn't he have, or he thought it, or he had an idea that Bucky killed his parents, but he didn't know for sure until he saw the video. Wasn't that the story?
That sounds right.
Okay, I think that was so. Yeah, very good. Obviously, an elite movie in the MCU. Next, we have the first Doctor Strange movie, which is one that I want to go back and watch. I want to go back and watch this one, especially after seeing this most recent one. What do you guys think?
I thought it was a really good origin story. Him being a pompous asshole is very Doctor Strange like, and then him in similar regards to finding humility like Iron Man and Tony Stark, but it took him like way less than time, like screen time, than took Iron Man.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah, he kind of like got a grip towards the end of the movie.
Yeah,
started caring about people.
The very end of the movie, though, like the very end.
Yeah. The whole scene with Dormammu and him, like however many iterations,
come to bargain,
come to bargain type thing.
That was funny.
Obviously the CGI is incredible. With some of the fight scenes, and like I remember the first scene that he met the Sorcerer Supreme and goes through like the wormholes for like 2 straight minutes.
It's like what just happened?
Yeah.
His astral form gets like punched out of his body or whatever.
Yep. I mean the whole like Ryan said, the whole pompous asshole act in the beginning where he he gets in that car accident and then he can't use his fingers anymore, and he becomes, because that's what he's done for his whole life, the neurosurgery, because he's so good at it, he can't fathom his life without it. So he's like, he will do literally anything to heal himself, which is interesting.
Really cool thing that I found out like a couple months ago, when right before he has his accident, he's driving the Lambo. He gets a call from somebody talking about these different surgeries if he'd be interested in performing. One of them is actually War Machine. They talk about it. A retired Colonel Air Force dude, paralyzed from the waist down, and Strange just like pass. It doesn't sound interesting.
Yeah, damn.
And then whatever else happens, but it's like it's a callback to like just the movie before, and not a lot of people caught up on that because it was so quick.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool little thing.
There was actually a reference that reminds me, in Winter Soldier, there's a reference when they're talking about like they're talking about the formula for like Zemo's algorithm or whatever, and they say Stephen Strange, but they also say a news anchor in Cairo, which is supposed to be a reference to Mark Spector actually, and people didn't pick up on that.
That one was wild.
Yeah, people did not recognize that at all. So yeah, Doctor Strange will be thinking like Ka-Chow or maybe Banger. I don't know, one of the two.
I'd say Ka-Chow.
Yeah, I'd probably agree.
I don't think it's as good as the 3 movies we have in Banger,
Yeah.
but I do really like.
What is it set up? I was just trying to think. Like what? So what comes after it?
Guardians of the Galaxy 2, but that doesn't have anything to do with it. So
Sure.
It doesn't really set up anything in the
It
MCU
does- yeah, it
other than
doesn't-
that Doctor Strange now exists in the
Yeah,
MCU.
the introduction for Infinity War. I'm guessing.
Yeah,
Right.
pretty much. So yeah, the next another one I would argue is a little bit overhated. I rewatched that one recently because in chronological you can watch like the 2 Guardians back to back because they happen separately from everything else. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, where Ego was the main villain, or Star-Lord's dad, who we find out. What are your guys' thoughts on this movie?
You can go first, Rob.
I do get some of the hate for it.
Mhm.
Like they opened the first fight scene with the golden people.
Yeah, they're stealing from the golden folks.
I
Mm.
can't
Oh no,
remember.
so they're fighting that monster, right? They're
Berg,
protecting the batteries.
the tracking shot on Groot.
But then they steal from it. And
Oh
like,
yeah,
Rocket
Rocket
steals.
Yeah, Rocket steals.
and it starts with a cool opening fight scene, and then like after that, like they're just kind of like chilling on Ego's planet,
Yeah.
and like nothing really happens for a
Yeah.
while, and then all of a sudden like Ego goes batshit. I get the hate for it. I just feel like not really happens. I think Ego is a fine villain, but like nothing overly interesting, like, other than the fact that he's like actually a planet.
Well,
But-
and I thought the whole storyline of like one thing that I like, because a lot of heroes would act like kind of stupidly in this situation. As soon as Ego said that like that's why I had to kill your mother, and then he starts shooting his guns, I was like, some of the other heroes would just like stare at him for like 5 minutes, and Quill just pulls out his guns and starts shooting him. I was like, that's correct. That's how you're supposed to react.
Trance or whatever that he put him in.
Yeah,
to, like,
exactly. Yep.
Try to convince him to join him.
And then another storyline I would argue is the Yondu storyline for this movie was very strong with the whole Sylvester Stallone.
Yondu's like funeral and stuff too.
That
cool
that's
scene.
that's like a almost makes you cry kind of scene.
But the Yondu storyline saves it from oof to Kachiga.
Really? You
terms
think
of,
it's
like-
that poor?
I was gonna put it in. It was a movie.
I was gonna put it was a movie.
The only saving part of it is it's entertaining, like funny.
Yeah.
I mean, like in terms of plot and obviously in the whole scheme of the MCU, there's just nothing going on.
The Nebula Gamora line is stupid. Like I don't really care.
And they still don't solve anything. They're just like,
Yeah.
again, fighting with each other.
Yeah.
Like you pick up Mantis,
True.
right? You pick up Mantis.
Whenever we watched it, so like you said, the comedy was still there. Like Drax or Batista was hilarious in this movie. He was really funny. Like
and in the Groot one-liners, like he's a teenager now. Like,
that was funny. Yeah, that was,
right. But that's what I'm saying. Like the comedic value is there. That's what you kind of expected after the first one.
Mhm.
So you expected that at a bare minimum, and you're like, wow, like what is this story gonna hold? And it's like the whole like with the shit at the different planets, like on Earth, like starts expanding and all that. It's like, oh god, it's gonna eat the planet. And it really wasn't as scary.
Yeah,
as
I didn't like that. Yeah, I do remember that.
It ate like one Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
One Dairy.
Yeah. So what do you think? So Rob, you said it was a movie.
I think it's worse than either of the other 2 movies we have.
I
And
but it's better than the Dark World. I don't put it down there with the Dark World.
That's fine. It might be being overcritical.
And a trilogy that honestly got a little hate, apart from the third one, Spider-Man Homecoming. The trilogy got a little bit of hate because I think people felt like they were trying to force Tom Holland as like the Iron Man Jr. as opposed to being like Spider-Man. That was a big complaint with the first 2 Spider-Man movies. What did you guys think of Spider-Man Homecoming?
I loved Homecoming.
Oh, really? Okay.
I thought Go ahead.
I think it's better than the second one with Mysterio Far From Home.
Yeah.
Like when he shows up to pick up like his date and it's her dad, like that was a twist that I don't think people would have seen at all before that.
Mhm.
I think he's a good villain. Like his backstory is really good. He was doing this stuff and the government takes it away from him, and like for no good reason either.
Yeah.
I don't mind that Iron Man's there. I think they do a good job too of like capturing like the whole high school thing of like he's like actually like a teenage friendly neighborhood Spider-Man for the first part of the movie.
Yeah.
So I really like the movie.
Everything that Robbie said, I 100% agree with. And I think the people that are not thrilled with this because it seemed like Iron Man Jr. are kind of missing the point. Again, like in this one specifically, he has Aunt May, but he doesn't have like a father figure, right? And like Tony Stark is being that dude and is giving him all this cool stuff, and he just wants to like make him proud. I mean, that's all theme throughout the entire movie.
Yeah.
So
he doesn't have an Uncle Ben. Like
right,
Uncle Ben.
exactly. So
and then you have the character development of obviously throughout the whole movie he wants to impress Tony Stark, and then at the end he doesn't take him off on the offer to join the Avengers.
Yep. So that's a whole character development in itself, and like you definitely see like, and the issue with Spider-Man is there had been like other Spider-Man franchises before to kind of like compare and contrast, and we could all agree that this Peter Parker, Tom Holland, is by far the best Peter Parker.
Yeah.
Like there's not even a close competition.
Yep.
I rewatched the Tobey Maguire one, like when he's like, the first one when he's like still in high school, and like it's not like the same vibe. Like it doesn't seem like he's actually
so old. He's so old. So, like it's not his fault, but like they casted him so old.
Spider-Man's really young and like doesn't really know what he's doing, and like this one by far does the best job of that. Like when he's at the gas station and accidentally like engages like kill mode or whatever.
Takes off the training wheel program or protocol, whatever it's called.
Stuff like that, like things a high schooler would actually do if they were a superhero.
And the funniest line in the movie where Ned is in the library and on the computer, and the librarian walks in. What are you doing? He's like, I'm watching porn. It's just so funny. That line. And I like how it was the whole thing, like because it's a very high schooler thing to do, to like only tell your best friend kind of thing. I thought that was funny. And then was this the movie? Or was it Far From Home where he takes the suit off and then Aunt May like screams "What the F" at the end?
It's the very end.
No, it's the very end of this movie, right? Okay, yeah. So obviously, just two people, or I guess all the Avengers and two other people now. So we think this is Ka-chow.
I think it's a top of Ka-chow. I
might put it in banger.
Ooh, I don't know.
I'm down with top of Ka-chow. Connor might be a little
hesitant
on the banger.
All right.
Great. Next we have Thor Ragnarok, easily the best movie of the Thor trilogy, or I guess 4 movies now, because Thor: Love and Thunder obviously coming out soon.
Elite.
So yeah, Elite.
Yes.
Ooh.
It is funny. It is
really
funny when you did not think it was going to be funny.
Mm-hmm.
The whole scene with him on that planet and meeting up with the Hulk and then finding Valkyrie. I mean, that is probably some of the best 15-20 minutes of MCU that's not like an Avengers movie.
Yeah.
It does nothing for the plot. It's just good and entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
And
like Loki's face, Tom Hiddleston, when they see like Hulk for the first time,
like,
it's hysterical.
Yeah. Well, you say it does nothing for the plot, but isn't Helena still out there? Isn't she? Like,
I was talking for that like 15-20 minutes when they were like on that planet, right? Like there's no plot development. It's just them shitting around. He picked up Hulk accidentally.
And then, the fight scene on the bridge is so cool, like with the giant wolf fighting the Hulk, and like Hela doing her thing, and they're trying to get everyone onto the ship. Like there's a lot going on, but it's really well managed. I think the way that they wrap it up, I mean, similar we talked about in Doctor Strange, that no one was beating Scarlet Witch. Like no one was beating Hela. So they had to kind of go a different route and just bring in Surtur to blow the whole thing up.
Which the Surtur storyline I thought was done so well.
Yeah.
I thought that was hysterical because that's how the movie starts off, right? And he's like, I'm going to bring Ragnarok and like raise Asgard.
Thor's like, okay, whatever.
And like just shows up and he's like, and then Hela's like, wait.
And then like Surtur thinks he's winning, but like he's actually not winning, like all like
no one's trying to stop him.
Yeah. And people forget that Doctor Strange actually made a cameo in this movie where he was like, because he was worried. Yeah, he was worried about like Loki, and he sent him in like that
hysterical scene.
Yeah, I've been falling for 30 minutes. Yeah.
A fun fact about that cameo: so it's the only time that Doctor Strange wears gloves. He has
with the yellow gloves. Yeah.
They didn't want to do his scars, the CGI for his scars. So they wanted to save a little bit of money without having to do the CGI for his hand scars. They had him wear gloves.
That's pretty smart, actually. Yeah.
It's like, that's not something a lot of people would notice, but
And then something that people don't know. This is just a little tidbit. I know Ryan knows this, but the line where Hulk, when they're fighting and Hulk comes out and Thor says it's a friend from work, that wasn't in the script at all. There was a kid on set. It was like a kid who was doing like a Make-A-Wish and he wanted to be on the set of Thor, and he was the one who said that line. He said he was like, oh, he should say it's a friend from work, and like the director like, that's genius, and so they put it in the movie. It was really funny. So yeah, Ryan, I feel like Ryan's also leaning towards banger. I don't.
I'm leaning towards elite.
Okay.
I really am, with how it kind of like also just goes right into Infinity War.
Yeah.
You got that little transition and just like how beaten and battered everyone is, but they still like, it's kind of like riding off into the sunset, and then the very next movie starts and they get slaughtered.
Everyone's dead. Yeah.
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 All right.
So and I like the villain because she's not gone, right?
No, she's not. I don't think she is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
that'll be interesting.
personally, I would put it in banger, but I definitely understand the argument for elite. Next we have Black Panther.
Also, real quick before we start on Black Panther, that is probably one of the best recoveries from a shit movie, a shit prequel that you could have.
Yep.
So that's just shout out to them, like learning from kind of where some of the shortcomings they have in the previous movie, and really turned around. All right, but yes, Black Panther. I haven't seen this one in a while either.
One of the best villains in MCU overall.
I love Michael B. Jordan to a fault. Oz? Hey, no, we'll cut that out. Don't worry about it.
That's sus.
No, I want you to keep going.
Yeah.
Definitely,
keep going.
I need you to elaborate.
Yeah, no. Michael B. Jordan is probably my favorite current actor. That's what it is.
That's kind of weird.
I just like Creed guy.
I really like Creed. I really enjoy the Creed movies.
Creed's are good movies.
Yeah. But no, Robbie, you're completely right. I mean, the whole Killmonger is a great villain. Chadwick Boseman's obviously incredible as T'Challa. His sister's super funny. She's kind of the comedic relief, but she's also a genius, and that's a really good aspect. Him kind of having the conflict with knowing that his father wanted the best, but also his father was the one that like killed Killmonger's father. It was also a very interesting storyline.
M'Baku's awesome too.
M'Baku, yeah, I love that character.
I feel like this movie was slightly overrated.
Yeah, I think so.
It did get like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like that's insane.
I again, it was a time for a lot of African American actors, right? I mean, there is a lot of people that got their shot in an MCU movie, and I mean, what was like the cast was like 96% black, and obviously, as it should be for a movie that's set in like sub-Saharan Africa, which is supposed to be like the country's supposed to be like absolutely desolate or whatever, like super poor, and then they're like, no, we're like definitely the richest country like in the world. And just seeing like some of the cool technology that had come out of it, and finding out like that's where did you find out that's where Cap's shield came from in that movie, that it's made out of vibranium?
No, they said it was made out of vibranium earlier.
They said vibranium before that. Okay, I think you find out that's where all the vibranium is in Wakanda.
Yes. But the only one that knows is Stark. Stark mentions he knows about Wakanda and stuff because I'm sure his dad, kind of told him. Sure. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think like finding you kind of knew T'Challa wasn't going to be dead, right? Like there was too early in the movie for him to be dead, so I thought like the timing was kind of odd on that. And then like the whole like family running for their lives. There were a couple moments in like some of the fight scenes at the end. I think the fight scene between Killmonger and T'Challa was great. I think the fight scene between like the tribes was kind of forced because I really don't think that they would really turn on T'Challa if he was like back and healthy.
Yeah.
So I thought that was kind of odd decision making.
No, yeah, the first fight, Killmonger gave him that work. Like T'Challa was not ready for him at all. It was kind of interesting. Yeah, I would probably put this in Ka-Chow. I'd say
that's fine. I would personally probably put it in It Was a Movie, but
I come on.
I understand.
So next we have Avengers: Infinity War.
Definitely elite.
Yeah, I don't think there's much argument to be had to say that. Definitely Avengers: Infinity War. as like Robbie said, the first time that we really saw the heroes lose was in Age of Ultron, because obviously he ultimately got what he wanted, but the first time we saw them more physically lose, well, with people thought they were dead and stuff, was Infinity War. Thanos, all-time movie superhero villain, obviously.
Yeah.
The guy who plays that, his name Josh Brolin.
Josh
Something
Brolin.
like, yeah.
Yep.
His voice is incredible. The writing for Thanos is so good. He's so philosophical and he's psychotic, but it's like the way that he presents it is so it seems justified.
Yo, but is he wrong?
Yeah, exactly. No, but he justifies it so well. But he justifies himself so well, and it creates like almost an uneasiness with the audience and stuff.
And just stays so intimidating the entire time. I mean, obviously, like he's physically intimidating, but like you also, when he's talking, like know that he has a purpose in everything that he's doing.
Yeah.
His cronies are entertaining. Like some like the fights that they'd have.
He lost Squidward.
I love the scene in, I believe it's London, where it's Vision and Wanda, and they're getting kind of worked over because Vision, like, I don't know, whatever they use, like,
got stabbed in the yeah.
And Cap comes in and just absolutely starts working one of them.
Yeah.
So also the whole Doctor Strange and Iron Man dynamic through the whole movie's great.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, just like the way they did the team ups is just so interesting. Like you have like the Guardians and then Iron Man and then Doctor Strange and Spider-Man and like they all, two of the Guardians go with Thor and just the way that they split it up and like have each of these storylines going, like the characters they picked to be together, and it made sense for them to be together, like was really well done and really interesting. Each storyline was really interesting.
Yep. And then you had the Hulk storyline of him like getting absolutely worked over and then being scared to actually come out. Like that's never something you've seen from Hulk.
Yeah. And it was another one of those movies that started off, it was kind of like Guardians of the Galaxy, obviously but this was a lot more actiony, but it started off like really sad because Heimdall dies immediately, and then Loki dies immediately, and like everybody except for Thor dies, on that ship kind of thing. And he obviously gets the the Tesseract, because Loki had the Tesseract, so he obviously gets that. So yeah, it was very good. It was obviously an incredible movie. And then the whole, the end with, him ripping the stone out of Vision's head and setting up all the Wanda stuff, and him like, you should have gone for the head. And I think the funniest scene in the movie is when you guys mentioned it was when Spider-Man and the Guardians and like Doctor Strange and Iron Man are all on the ship. He's like, What master do you serve? What master do I serve? You want me to say Jesus?
You're from Earth.
Yeah, Kentucky. Yeah, that's on Earth, dipshit.
From Missouri.
Missouri. It's so funny.
And then shout out to Peter Quill for losing his cool again.
Yeah, that was a great moment.
And then when they almost had the glove off or whatever.
Yep. Yeah. And then like you said, there was some of the oh wait, never mind. That's an Endgame. I'm thinking something else. But yeah, this is obviously an elite movie. So we'll move on to the next one. Ant-Man and the Wasp.
I think
Dude, I hardly remember this movie.
Yeah, I don't.
This is one I was like not looking forward to talking about because I don't really remember a whole
Robbie,
lot
explain why you think it's underrated.
I mean, I think the Ant-Man and Wasp dynamic is good. I think, but we talked about Paul Rudd. Like he just plays the character incredibly well. They let his like kind of like background characters come even more into it. Like Ruiz actually plays like a important role in the movie.
Yeah.
Like he really does come to the forefront. The villain, I think, is like, it's weird because there's like a lot of villains going on. So you have like Ghost, and then you have, which is like the girl that like keeps phasing through engines or whatever and like can't stop it. And then you have the Texan guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But like he's trying to buy like all of Pym's technology and stuff. But it's the first time you get to see them go into the quantum realm, which obviously becomes very important in later movies. Go ahead and sets that up. So I mean it's like the Thor Guardians movie. It's just a very funny movie.
Yeah, the quantum realm research that they were doing, like obviously is completely just there for Endgame.
Yeah,
like that's why that movie was created, to kind of give some reasoning behind how they did that.
Well, this is another one that I would argue this is a very, very good post-credit scene, because when he's like, hey, bring me back up, and then they're all, they've all been dusted. That was obviously a really good post-credit scene. I don't know, just because it was so, like Ryan said, it was kind of forgettable. For me personally, I put it in. It was a movie for me personally.
I would agree,
but because it's not bad by any means, but it's just like it's kind of a little forgettable.
The villains are confusing.
Yeah,
like Robbie was mentioning, and like they get the mom back, which is like the whole goal of the entire movie. And then she disappears again. Like just gets snapped.
Yeah, it's true.
It's like
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
Like, all right, so we did all this.
Yeah, for nothing.
That's why I'm saying it literally just paved the way for Endgame.
Yeah. So next up, one of the most controversial ones on the list, Captain Marvel.
I don't understand the hate that it gets. I thought it was fine.
I think a lot of people had issue with Brie Larson. Just her.
It was also kind of forgettable for me though.
Yeah, I feel that. But it set up some decent stuff. Well, obviously, like her, her as a character in the MCU, and also the feud between the Kree and the golly, I can't remember what the other one was. Yeah, the Skrulls, but like because you see the Skrulls in Far From Home again, the Spider-Man Far From Home, and then then Ronan, like he was a Kree. I was like, what the hell? It was so random to me just to see that. And you got to see early Fury. Fury was pretty, like, Samuel L. Jackson was really good in this movie. It was
I thought funny. He saved the movie from
he was yeah. Yeah, he was very good in that.
Another movie that they threw in just so they could have her in Endgame though, because then she just like shows up in Endgame and like wrecks shit. Like again, they just kind of threw it in so you would have her around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I mean, you could have thrown that movie in any point of like production in the timeline of making these movies, and it wouldn't have made a difference. It was just so that she would be like more memorable when she came into fight.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess. I don't know if I want to put it in Kachika. Are we thinking it's that poor?
I think we need another one at Kachika. I think it's worse than all of the movies we haven't. It was a movie like by a considerable margin.
Oh, I didn't like Black Widow. Oh, I thought you were saying the ones we were about to like.
No, the ones we have and it was a movie. I think it's worse than all.
Yeah.
The post-game credit for Infinity War, was that the whole Samuel L. Jackson pressing the?
Oh yeah, that's an all-time. Yeah, that's an all-time one. And then next up, Avengers Endgame.
Elite. I mean, I don't know.
It's
not as good as Infinity War. Let's start there. It is not as good as Infinity War, but like you have to put it in Elite for how much it wraps up. And I mean, it was a long movie, but like I think they do a really good job.
What did you guys think of? Because a lot of people thought that it was almost a bailout, the whole time travel thing. What did you guys think of that idea that they brought in?
Well, it's like they kind of set up the whole multiverse thing too, because they're like, it's not really time travel. Like you're going to a completely different timeline.
Yeah.
Because once you like go back in time, quote unquote, you're no longer in your timeline. You're on a different timeline.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it, that they kind of set up the multiverse that way. It's not quite the same thing, but it is also kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is confusing. But
yeah. And them retrieving the stones, all those scenes were very cool. Them, getting that's how the Loki show started, is that one timeline where he got the Tesseract and disappeared. The Hulk getting the stone from the Ancient One and like describing the whole situation was very cool. Tony going back to see his dad, and then that was it was very, very cool.
Offering him advice about him,
the
little paradox things that didn't get involved.
And Black Widow dying, sacrificing herself. Oh, the Red Skull cameo on Vormir, and them getting, Hawkeye getting the Mind Stone.
Well, he popped up in Infinity War too.
Yeah, you saw him in Infinity War when Thanos went.
No, I know. Wait, what? What did I say?
Well, you're just saying Red Skull cameo.
The first time you mentioned it was for Red Skull and Endgame.
Oh yeah. So yeah, some incredible moment, and Tony Stark at the beginning, like I said, I referenced it earlier, but his whole conversation with Cap, the whole we need a shield around the world, like that's an incredible scene. There's so many good scenes. I mean, when they all come back and everybody's swinging, Spider-Man's swinging around, and the whole portals are opening, and it's just it's such a Captain America thing, Go ahead.
The portal scene's so good. The portal scene's just everyone just starts
it's such fan service, and it still hit.
Yeah,
and it still was great. We talked about it earlier when we were talking about some of the Iron Man trilogy, but again, the character arc for Tony Stark, when you see him as a dad, You know,
Oh yeah.
doesn't give a shit about the suits
No.
anymore, right? That's who made him. And in a lot of people's mind, the suits are what made him. He's like, no, it's now the family and all
Yeah.
this kind of stuff. But he still comes back and helps, and is like, holy shit, like you can actually bring all these people back.
Yeah. The trio fight between him, Cap, and Thor versus Thanos. Cap catching the hammer. There's just so many iconic
Again,
moments.
fan service.
Yeah,
but we love it.
But you knew because again an Age of Ultron callback because he
Yep.
moved the hammer in Age of Ultron. And also such a Captain America moment where his shield's broken in half, everybody's down, and he pulls the strap tighter. And he's about to take on the entire Thanos army, and everybody, and then on your left, obviously. Yeah, and then eventually, Wanda, taking Thanos 1-on-1 until he tells them to the ships to rain
Would
fire.
have won.
Yeah, she would have collapsed him.
She wasn't even Scarlet Witch, which again should unbelievably powerful.
Uh-huh.
She gave no issues to beating Strange.
Yeah,
and I always forget his. I guess the new sorcerer Wong.
Yeah.
I'm a casual.
The Sorcerer Supreme.
It's very disrespectful.
And also an all-time villain moment, because again, sometimes villains and heroes are stupid. When Captain Marvel is trying to take the gauntlet off Thanos, and he pulls out the Power Stone, and he uses it on her instead of just trying to fight for it. It's like that. Thank you for having some level of intelligence. Yeah. So yeah, then obviously they end up winning, and this was obviously an insane opening scene where Hawkeye's family dies, his entire family, and then he's Ronin at the beginning. Or is that what was his? Okay, I get confused. Ronin and Ronan, right? That's the Guardians guy.
Yeah.
So the movie obviously belongs in Elite. So next we have Spider-Man: Far From Home. Yeah.
It was a movie.
Yeah, I probably.
It was a movie. The villain sucked, man. It just wasn't really. Yeah, it wasn't very inspiring. He has to come into his own a little bit, right? He didn't have Tony Stark anymore.
I just don't. It doesn't do anything better than the other two Spider-Man movies do.
Mm-hmm.
Every part of it is done better by either one of those other two movies.
Yeah,
a little less fanfare in the second one than the third one.
Yeah,
there's so much.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
the third one is rich with fanfare, and it still might make it into Elite just because of that. It's probably going to end more in banger. The actual.
It's not. It's not.
I was already eyeing
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah. And then obviously the reveal at the end with Fury and Maria Hill being Skrulls is interesting. So yeah. It was like you guys said, it was fine. I mean, nothing super inspiring there. We'll move on to Black Widow. I'm gonna say it. I think this is a Kachika. Did not really enjoy Black Widow, if I'm being 100% honest. I was disappointed in what they.
I feel like the villain could have been so much cooler too. I feel like Taskmaster could be a really cool villain and end up not being a very cool villain.
Her becoming Black Widow was so much more interesting than where they set the movie in. Her going through the whole academy or whatever that they had to go through. That's fascinating, but I don't know. I was not a fan. I mean, obviously, they introduced her sister, who plays a part in Hawkeye, the show.
Remind me time-wise where this was supposed to take place.
This takes place right before Infinity War.
Okay.
Yeah, right after Civil War, between that and Infinity War.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was.
It wasn't very. It's not very memorable. I'm trying. I did not see it very long ago, and
It was the one too that they released only on Disney Plus over COVID because all the movie theaters were closed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so you're probably watching it from home, and so as soon as you got disinterested, you probably got on your phone and weren't paying attention. That's what I did.
I remember going to the theaters and I saw that one in the theaters, but
I don't. We definitely saw it at home.
But Black Widow, because she has the whole lawsuit against them because. The money you get streaming is different than the ones you get in theaters, and they didn't release them all in theaters. So she said it was a breach of contract. That whole thing.
Yeah. I think obviously she did a fine job, but so, like I said, the story, the timeline, I think they chose incorrectly with the story that they told. That's a Kachika for us. One that shocked me and how good that I believed it was is Shang-Chi and the Legend of Ten Rings. I would put this in banger. I thought this movie was incredible.
The fight scenes are so freaking cool. The bus one, and then the scaffolding one where they're like doing all of that.
Dude,
I mean, and then the end fight scene too, like the fight, like they really did a good job of like playing homage to like kung fu movies and like the fight scenes. Like you can tell they really spent time focusing on those.
And the Wong and Abomination fight.
Yeah, that was hilarious.
Like they first,
you're like, what the hell?
Get there, and that's hysterical.
This is a perfect example of when the Marvel, because let's be real, there is a formula to Marvel movies, like especially in origin stories, they have a very strict formula that they kind of stick to. I would honestly argue maybe apart from the first Iron Man, this is the best they've ever done it. This is the best that they've ever done the formula. I think this is a firmly in banger. I love this movie.
That.
What do you think, Ryan? We'll put it in banger.
I don't have a problem with it.
Well, yeah, I was shocked by how much I enjoyed that movie when I walked out of the theater. I was like, damn, it's like in my top 10. I was like,
well, yeah, it really sticks when I was searching for like comic books and references and like how long has Shang-Chi been in like the Marvel comic book universe and all that kind of stuff. It's like, it's not one that you really knew.
Yeah, I saw it in theaters, and then I was like excited and like watched it the day that it came out on Disney Plus because I wanted to watch the movie again.
Yeah, it's very rewatchable. And like you said, the surprise, the Mandarin comes out of nowhere. You're just like, what the hell?
Him and what's the little like animal's name?
Oh yeah, that was funny. That whole I can't remember what it was called, but that was a funny bit. And so we will talk about Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Man, it's at least a banger just because
it's a banger.
It's not elite. Look, come like
in
terms of the MCU, probably the most overrated movie, just because people were so choked up with nostalgia, basically, that they thought it was.
And the plot holes are just abundant.
So like, there's a lot of plot holes.
Yeah.
And nobody cares because Doc Ock and Green Goblin showed up.
Yeah, credit to the fanfare that it's making it a banger with how many plot holes it had.
But they did the fan service so well. Like they did it really well, and like it made sense, and like it wasn't like just them throwing us a bone. Like that all was set up really well. Just the whole Doctor Strange plot
him deciding to just do that for it. It was just very strange.
And like you're telling me like you're gonna mess up the multiverse this bad just because like Peter Parker is like freaking out. Like no, come on.
Yeah.
But Doc Ock, Green Goblin, I mean, phenomenal. I mean, they're seasoned actors, obviously. Played their roles exceptionally well.
Yeah.
The Green Goblin scene where like Peter feels his heartbeat and like notices something change.
Bro, I love because he has the Spidey sense. You can like they show that in editing, like the Spidey sense around him. It's so cool because it like phases out the background and stuff. Oh, that scene is so good. And Green Goblin's like, oh, that's a neat little trick you got there because Defoe
his face when it changes to like being like the Green Goblin.
He's so good. And then props to Marvel for not making the great power comes with great responsibility line too cheesy and giving it to Aunt May, not making it too cheesy. And then Green Goblin just claps her. You're like, yo, like she just dies immediately. You're like, holy crap.
You knew it was coming,
it's
but
dark,
damn.
Though. It's that's a dark moment especially for the Spider-Man character.
Well, then it gets dark too, and he's like literally ready to murder Green Goblin.
I know.
Like just on the shield and the Statue of Liberty, like just
and they did a very good job with a lot of people who had issues with like Jamie Foxx's Electro in Amazing Spider-Man 2 because it was so not Jamie Foxx because it was such like a nerd character. But then this one they just made him like Jamie Foxx. They just made him Jamie Foxx Electro. Yeah, exactly. And it's so much better for his character.
They didn't make him fall into a vat of electric eels to get his power. I mean, I know it's the same character, but like that was stupid.
And they made him like not looks. They didn't have him do the blue face and stuff. They had him just like have electric. That it's so much. But Jamie Foxx was so improved.
Lightning, like,
but also
comic mask. But
but that's CGI improvements.
Yeah,
100%
of course.
CGI improvements.
Yeah, but they decided not to go.
Do that.
Yeah,
right.
But this is a very good movie, and the whole the ending truly is heartbreak. Obviously, we all love the Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield stuff. I mean, obviously the ending is heartbreaking. He can't be. Nobody knows who he is anymore. So
it was well written.
Very well.
I think they ended the movie well of like setting him up like his kind of next adventure of like,
just
he's not in high school anymore. Like he's gonna be doing something different. And
he's neighborhood Spider-Man. Like that's what he is. He doesn't have to be involved with the multiverse stuff. He's just in New York. So yeah, we'll put that in banger, and then we will. It's not here on the list, but we can talk about where we would put Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
I was disappointed in the grand
agree.
scheme of things. I thought
Probably.
it was very hyped up.
Yeah. Because you
with
thought it was
your
going to expand things. It's just
yeah, it was like your first big movie with the multiverse,
Yeah.
right? And and then there were rumors of it being like a kind of a horror movie too, and you're really interested to see like how they were going to spin that.
And they like half-assed the horror thing.
Yeah.
They
like,
really half-assed the horror.
They did it, but they also didn't. It's like you should have either gone for it or just left it out.
It's just Wanda being spooky.
Wanda being
like,
spooky, yeah.
And like I said, just some of the weird like edits and stuff they made of like I said, there are times where it literally felt like a shitty horror movie of like, why are you fading their faces in and out randomly?
Yeah. Yep.
If in terms of ranking, I'm putting it at the top of it was a movie.
That's what I was gonna say.
I was gonna say bottom of Kachow. Just I do think it was good enough to not be it was a movie, but it was not much better than that.
Yeah. Which is honestly like Ryan said, disappointing. So when we have the most, so we can either, do you guys want to rank the top or do you guys want to rank the one we have?
If we had Eternals, I would put that in oof.
Oh yeah, why isn't Eternals? Yeah, Eternals is god awful.
I don't think it's
not
bad.
good.
Robbie,
I would put it like it was a movie.
No chance, bro. Eternals makes me want to punch a baby. Yeah. I hated that movie.
That's aggressive. No punching children.
We're also already at an hour and a half, Connor. So I don't know if we want to rank one with the most movies.
Okay, we do. Okay, then we can just do the top real quick.
We have the most in Elite.
We have the most in Kachow.
Oh,
so we can just do the top. We can do Elite. So which is going to be difficult. But we have Winter Soldier, Civil War, Ragnarok, Infinity War, and Endgame.
Like 5, like I said.
Ragnarok goes at the bottom. I think Ragnarok goes at the bottom of the 5, in my opinion. The last two caps.
I'm debating if I want to put Civil War or Ragnarok at the bottom.
I think Ragnarok at the bottom.
If I'm doing it, I'm doing Infinity War, Winter Soldier, Endgame. Oh, and it's like a dead heat for me with Ragnarok and Civil War.
I might swap Winter Soldier and Infinity War.
I think Winter Soldier is the best MCU. That's what I'm saying.
Really?
Endgame,
I mean, I'm
Ragnarok, Civil War.
I'm not upset with that take.
I'm definitely putting Ragnarok above Civil War.
Okay, that's fine. I would put Civil War at the bottom.
Okay.
Then
we have that. We have Winter Soldier confirmed here on Bros in the Berg podcast. Winter Soldier being the best MCU movie,
which is the most basic take of all time. By the way,
I think most people think Infinity War is probably the best one. I would think. So Winter Soldier, Infinity War, Endgame, Thor Ragnarok, and Captain America: Civil War is our final list. Ryan, do you want to sign us out? Thank you guys for joining us today.
Yeah, a MCU special on the Bros in the Berg this week for the second podcast in 3 days. We're really putting in that work for our fans that want to see our content get out as much as possible. So thank you for listening on wherever you're getting your podcast.
Two guys sitting at home not doing anything who have time to record podcasts.
I'm sorry.
Yo, wait, that's crazy.
Yeah,
anyways,
that's kind of nuts.
Absolute wild take from our other co-host.
I don't know about that.
But thank you for listening on Spotify, watching on YouTube, and wherever else you get your podcasts. But this has been for Ryan, Robbie, and Connor. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.
Gamble responsibly.